questions, more in line with what you probably know that I usually ask about. One of the questions is, back when the council decided, just like many other residents, that our seismic testing company, when I say our, the one that was doing seismic testing in Monroeville, Geokinetics, had actually violated the agreement we had come to when they took us to court for writing the ordinance and so on, and we made an agreement out of court, and we all agreed that they had violated that in several ways, as far as notice to the residents and so forth. And we put a cease and desist order, and then they continued to do it. And the last I had personally heard was that there was some legal proceedings based on the fact that they continued to operate, even though we had put out the cease and desist order. I'm just actually asking for whatever happened with that kind of thing. What with the legal proceedings, and was there any kind of what was the result?
Yeah, what happened is that when the order was placed, and then the next day they violated the order. Right. We prepared a complaint and a request for an injunction, filed it with the court prior to anybody being able to do anything. Within probably hours, they notified the municipality that they were done and leaving. So that basically made the legal action we filed moot, because it was already over. We couldn't stop something that was already over.
They finished in the time it took to do something about them violating the...
Yeah, pretty much.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And I understand how, something like that could happen, and they could, just kind of do what they want. But is there any retroactive repercussions for a company basically violating something that Monroeville put out by just the fact that their advantage was, well, we can just hurry up and finish and get out of here? Is there any repercussions for something like that? As a personal citizen, if one of us kind of did that, you would think, well, you wouldn't get away with that because we live here, I guess. But they just go back to wherever, Texas or something, and they don't. There's no.
Well, actually, just to make you aware of the fact that there are a lot of people that violate ordinances and get away with it, because many times the fine looks pretty ominous. It's like $500 a day.
Okay.
But in reality, when you go over to the magistrate maybe fines them $50 as opposed to $5,000. So then it becomes an issue about the economics of trying to do all that, and then they try to take it down to federal court, and then we spend a lot of money trying to make them comply.
Okay. So there's a certain amount of, I understand, economic thought that has to go into it.
It becomes an exercise in futility, unfortunately.
Right. If they had stayed any longer, then then it would. But it
would have been a
different exactly.
Story.
Okay. And my last question is kind of another follow-up on some of the activities that we've been asking about over the last year or so. And I say we, I guess Sustainable Monroeville and other concerned citizens, is the proposed update to the zoning ordinance that Monroeville has, the one that's was put into effect on December 11th of 1984. We had the proposed ordinance that was then ultimately withdrawn because of myself and some other people who had differences on one of the changes that it made to what we had agreed to of keeping, let's just call it fracking, in M2 industrial rather than the S1 conservancy. So we pulled, or you as a council pulled it, and there was no vote. My question is there any follow-up to making an updated ordinance without making that particular change from M2 to S1 for the fracking, just leaving it in M2, but updating the rules and regulations, parameters, things like that from December 11th, 1984?
That would be up to council, and if there's nothing, if they decide to do that, I've not been asked to.
Okay, so that would actually answer my question as far as you. So as council hasn't asked Mr. Ratcher to do that, is there any plans, or are we still just sticking with our one from basically 34 years ago?
Well, we're sticking with that one, plus the update of having it just in the M2.
Sure, which is extremely important. That is important.
Yeah. The other setbacks and things of that nature, at this point, they'd be through the DEP, where any company would have to go through the DEP for their setbacks.
Right.
But as far as putting another layer of an ordinance on top of that, that has not been discussed. We tried it. It didn't go through because of what we learned and what we discussed further.
Right.
But at this point, we hadn't had plans to update that.
Okay. I ask basically because other than that change, there was a lot of other work that was put into it, and just like anything, it probably needed some revisions. And there was the county had commented on a few things, but I don't know if anybody had thought we should just throw the whole thing out because there were a few things that needed revised or one major change that we didn't, think that should go through, which I'm glad didn't. But I guess it's something for further discussion. But right now, there's been no further action taken.
Yeah, there's so many different court cases that are out there that are
Yes,
changing
there are.
and
There was just some
evolving.
decided at the end of last week.
Exactly, so-
Porcelain and Fairfield.
Right.
Right. If you know about what was.
Yeah, but those that really address more of like farmland and agricultural
Yes,
land. So
right.
we actually are a step ahead of that by actually only making it in the M2 industrial.
And I think that's really important. So, I actually want to thank you again for the work that's been done over the last year on that, having it put into M2 industrial only, and as long as we keep that, that's actually from the decision that was made late last week. If you aren't all familiar with it, but it really was about the zoning, and I won't get into all the details, but essentially, as long as we keep our Monroeville zoning the way it is and keeping it in M2, then a company couldn't just come in, according to our law right now, and put it in a residential
Correct.
District and claim that it's, the idea that they could claim that it's similar to other uses in those residential districts because there's no other industrial uses allowed in those residential
So we're a step
districts.
ahead in that
Right.
regard.
Yes, we are.
And I fully support that, and I'm pretty confident that this council's
Gonna keep it.
supports that as well, and won't make any changes as far as that goes. But as far as further layers, that might be something discussed down the road.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
David, David, first of all, I'd like to thank you for helping with the Jack Sedlak cleanup. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you. I've been doing the cleanup, the Sedlak cleanup, for many years, and actually a lot of my own personal cleanups that weren't, organized, but just because, I try to keep
Yeah.
as
And
with
and
everything
I'd
I
like
do.
to say that the 8 hot dogs you ate was,
Yeah, considering I'm vegetarian, yeah. I donated mine to other people, so, thank you.